So stemming off my last video in regards to clearing behind doors, I quickly want to go over the actual threat level that a threat hiding behind a door presents. You'll constantly hear people, especially in the comments section of the YouTube video or whatever, whenever you see people doing clearances and they enter the room however they enter the room, or they don't immediately check behind the door, you'll have some smart ass in the comments going, well, if someone was hiding behind the door, everyone in the room would be dead, or some other stupid comment like that. The reality is, the danger level that is present by a threat hiding behind a door is actually very, very low, because threats very rarely actually hide behind doors. It's just not a very dominant position for them to be in. It's a position of hiding. It's not a dominant position to control or engage anybody who is entering a room. It might be a sneaky position, so to speak, for them to potentially engage someone who entered the room. But again, it's not a very dominant position, and it leaves them really no way of egress. It's a very bad position for them to be in because they really have no position, they have really no route of egress, and they're more than likely going to die, which, generally speaking, the overwhelming majority of the time, threats are looking to live. They want to live and escape whoever is searching for them, hunting them, whatever. They generally want to live. They're not just looking to take as many of you with them as possible. Generally speaking, there are exceptions, obviously, but generally speaking, they want to live. So putting themselves behind a door and hoping to win the overall engagement from that position is highly unlikely, and everyone kind of intuitively knows that. So with that being said, although we don't discount clearing behind a door when needed, it's just a very low priority, meaning basically everything else within the room is a higher priority than what might be hiding behind the door. And if we need to clear behind the door, typically everything else within the room is going to be handled first, and then we'll clear behind the door last, typically. Unless we get some sort of trigger or cue that may tell us that there is someone hiding behind the door, whether we hear somebody pushing up against the door or bumping up against the door, or if someone does pin the door and it feels very squishy and he believes that there might be someone behind that door, then obviously it will become a higher priority. But absent those cues, clearing behind the door is generally speaking going to be very, very low on the priority list in regards to whatever else might be lying in the room. Now, with that being said, although threats don't tend to hide behind doors, non-threats will occasionally hide behind them, particularly children, because again, it's a hiding position. So if they don't necessarily intend or are willing to do you harm, they just want to hide from you, or maybe they're just hiding from whoever's in the building or the general situation that's happening within the building. People and non-threats will hide behind a door, but again, it's a position of hiding, so these are almost always going to be people who, again, don't really intend to do you any harm. They are just there. Especially children, because number one, children are small enough where they can much more effectively hide behind a door, and children, just due to their psychology, they feel covered there and more hidden in that kind of position, kind of like how children will more likely hide underneath a bed than like an adult would, of course. Particularly threats, kind of same situation. Again, doesn't mean that they never do that. It's just very rare to actually see that. Sometimes you'll also see women hiding behind there too. But regardless, if there is someone behind the door, it almost always will be a non-threat. Again, this doesn't mean that you take behind the door for granted. It just means that it's a lower priority on our list. Again, absent any cues that would lead us to believe there might be someone behind the door. People way overestimate the likelihood of a threat hiding behind the door, and you see this constantly, and it's a question that is asked constantly. Anyways, I hope you found this video helpful and informative. If you enjoy this kind of content, please consider subscribing to either my player or my Patreon channel for access to exclusive content, as well as early access to my free content like this. If you enjoy this, also, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm Tyler Austin from Gungnir Strategic. Thank you so much for watching.